Peace and love, family, and welcome back to another Sunday Hope and Healing session. Back from Bangkok, not quite home yet, but back from Bangkok. And we're here as we are every Sunday, starting at about 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're getting started a little bit late today. But we are dealing with a significant topic. This is a topic that a lot of people are impacted by. It's a topic that um, when I was up in the wee hours of the morning praying on what to address, this one came through loud and clear. And that is dealing with the subject of cancer. And so, more specifically today, we're actually, uh, if you've been to um, Sunday Hope and Healing sessions before, you know that we address the perspective, and I would say reality, that all sickness has its root cause. And unless we address the root cause of an issue, the issue remains there. And so it's important that we be able to address the root cause of the issue. And in the process of addressing the root cause, we're able to address the thing itself. Okay. Sickness and disease play out in the world of effects. But to get rid of them, we have to address it from the point of the cause. Okay. And so all sickness is really essentially a dark. I'm gonna let that breathe for a minute. All sickness is really a darkness. Darkness isn't something we need to be mad at. It isn't something that we need to curse or scream at. It isn't something that we need to banish. Darkness in and of itself doesn't actually exist. It is merely the absence of what does exist. Because everything that God made is good. If it isn't good, then God didn't make it. And if God didn't make it, it isn't real. There isn't anything in any scripture that I can think of, in any sacred text of any religion that I can think of, that says that God created darkness. It does say that God created light. And so darkness is merely the absence of light. Darkness is merely the absence of what is, or the lack of awareness of what is. And so, as human beings, we have uh, essentially, in a lot of ways, descended into the darkness to reveal or to infuse into the consciousness of darkness the awareness of the presence of God's light. Okay. And so, all sickness, all disease is the result of a darkness. It isn't something that we need to be mad at. It is something that we just need to infuse the presence of the light into. And in the presence of the light, healing automatically manifests itself. Okay. And so today we're dealing specifically with cancer and healing the energy that causes cancer, healing the energy that causes cancer. And, you know, we're going to be rather, if you will, rather candid with this. Thought I put it on the screen. I guess I did not. How did that go there instead of what I was endeavoring to put there? I'm not quite sure. Okay, let's try this again. Ah, sometimes I have to laugh at the things that happen that were different than how I planned on it to unfold. Anyway, we're dealing with healing the energy that causes cancer. Not just healing the cancer, but healing the energy that is behind the cancer. If you've not already, actually, the third and fourth video that I ever did on YouTube um, on this Matrix Healing channel, 16 years ago, dealt with cancer and why it's running so rampant. The reality of what was stated then is still true. If you haven't, those are short videos. They're not like these more lengthy Sunday Hope and Healing sessions. I encourage you to go back and check out those short videos. Uh, both of them were maybe around 5 minutes long or so. But let's look at what cancer is. cancer is a parasite. We did a couple of videos dealing with parasites a couple months ago, but cancer is a parasite. Cancer is actually a rogue cell. So let's speak about cells for a moment. All that your body is a conglomeration of a bunch of different cells. You have cells all throughout your body, and each cell in your body has its own job, its own function, its own purpose, its own responsibility. Each cell of your body was divinely designed to do what it was specifically called and designed to do to support the well-being of your body as a whole. Okay. And so you have skin cells, you have nerve cells, you have brain cells, you have muscle tissue cells, you have liver cells, you have a variety uh, of cells, different cells within your immune system. All of these different cells have their own job, their own function, their own purpose, their responsibility. And they get their message on what to do from a central cell, a very key cell located within the pineal gland of the brain. We refer to this sometimes as the master cell because it's the one that's ultimately controlling everything. The master is looking at what's going to support the highest and best good of all of this whole system called our body, right? And so it sends out messages to the entirety of the body, to all of the billions and trillions upon trillions of cells that exist within a body. You've got like a million of them just in a single fingernail. You've got trillions upon trillions of cells in your body, and all of them, every single one of them has its own job, function, and responsibility. Okay. And so with each of these various cells, they take in information, they receive the information from the master on how to operate in a way that's going to support the highest and best good and how it will fulfill its purpose in a way that aligns with how it is specifically able to contribute to the highest and best good of the body as a whole. Cancer cells, however, are different. Cancer cells create a force field around themselves to block off the signal that is coming from the master. And so they go and they kind of have the mentality, why serve in heaven if you can rule in hell? And so they book against the system. They actually are doing the polar opposite of what the cell was designed to do. And they go rogue and they try to convince other cells to do the same. You know, they whisper, they spread poison to the other cells so that they become just like them, and they continue to proliferate as long as they possibly can until they've taken over the whole body. One thing about every parasite is it needs a host to live in, but the cancer will run rampant in the body until it destroys the body and therefore destroys the host in which it was living and therefore destroys its own self. So where it is very strong-willed, it is not very intelligent. Where it is able to wreak a lot of harm and damage and chaos, it ultimately leads to its own destruction and it takes you along with it. Okay. That's the nature of how cancer operates. Now, the thing about cancer is it wasn't always called cancer. It used to be called something else. Does anyone know what it used to be called? What cancer used to be called back in the day? All right. Would you like to phone a friend? Cancer used to be called consumption. And why did cancer used to be called consumption? It used to be called consumption because that's what cancer does. It consumes your body from the inside. It consumes your body from the inside out. Now I'm giving you some background about cancer, and we're going to speak to why it's running so rampant and how we can address it. Okay. How we can address it. What are some things that consume you from the inside? Those are the things that are dealing with the energy of cancer. I can tell you some things that are very strongly linked to cancer. And one of those things is resentment. Resentment has very strong links to cancer because, like cancer, it can consume you. It can keep you from moving forward in life and in joy and in peace and in harmony and in well-being. Animosity goes right along with that resentment. It can consume you, eat you up from the inside. It's anger that you're wanting to direct towards someone else. It's a form of anger that you're wanting to direct towards someone else, but it's really consuming you on the inside. And so forgiveness is so critical, not that you're doing it for someone else, but because you need it for yourself. Because holding on to whatever that stuff is can consume you. And sometimes it can consume you in a way that results in you developing the dis-ease known as cancer, where it's pointing to, it's a material manifestation of what's going on within you, what's going on inside of you. And then it literally can go on inside of your body temple. Okay. It's another thing that can consume one. The need to please. The need to please, being a people pleaser, sacrificing your own well-being, sacrificing your own needs for the wants of another. I believe in putting someone else's wants before your own wants, but putting someone else's wants before your needs is not necessarily healthy. That can be done in family relationships. It can be done in one's professional life. It can be done in one's interpersonal relationships. It can be done just as a person's way of being. It can be done just with respect to a person's way of being. Okay. And so, what that really is speaking to, which is another thing that can consume a person from the inside out, is self betrayal. Betrayal of one's own self, betrayal of one's own true self, betrayal of one's own authentic needs, betrayal of one's own authentic identity. These are things that can actually eat away at a person from the inside that will then actually can actually cause a person to be a vibrational match for that which we call today cancer, that once upon a time was called consumption. And all things that are outpictured in our lives are there to point to what's going on within realms of our consciousness so that we can actually address those things. No sickness or no disease is there just simply as something to cause us harm. Sometimes it's there as, well, if we choose to perceive it that way, as a gift to wake us up, to get our attention, to put energy in a direction that is more healthful for us, that's more beneficial for us, and that more aptly serves and supports the highest and best good of us all. Okay. Now, this next thing that I'm going to talk about is profoundly pervasive. And this is a big part of why cancer runs so rampant in our society today. And that is placing base level desires, base level egoic desires with no consideration for the highest and best good of the whole, or the more deeper needs that need to be fulfilled? Okay. Now, let me make this plain. Our world is actually filled with carcinogens, right? What is a carcinogen? A carcinogen is essentially um, something that helps to create an environment that cancer can thrive in, okay? Or something that can even cause cancer. What are some environmental things that actually result in cancer? Radioactivity. If you know some of the answers, jot them down in the chat. Radioactivity contributes to cancer. What's something else that contributes to cancer? Petrochemicals. Petrochemicals contribute to cancer. And they're in almost everything. I'm not saying this to put you in a fear-based state, by the way. That is not the point of this. We want to empower, not to put anyone in a state of being afraid or being fearful. What's something else? A big thing that that can contribute to an environmental thing that can contribute to cancer. Various forms of pollution, plastics, you know, the chemicals that are put in so many of the products that we deal with, those that we wear as well as those that we eat, right? A lot of these things, if we look at some of the things that I was talking about before, a lot of these things are things that are put together by very large corporations or by uh, folks who are producing this thing with the intention of affecting their own bottom line without regard of how that could affect you or I as consumers. Okay. And that's ultimately a huge part of the energy that causes cancer. That, in fact, is a cancer in and of itself, right? And so, what we want to do today, and we're going to get into some healing. I don't know what my time is looking like. I'll try to not go all the way until 2 Eastern today. But we're going to actually get into some healing to address some of these things. If you have cancer, if you know of anybody who has cancer, please share this with them. There's going to be some healing that's going to happen in this. And while I'm not offering a guarantee that everybody who watches this broadcast is going to be miraculously healed of cancer, I am open to the possibility that someone will. And I do believe that there's value in the things that are being shared, that one can actually take greater control of their life. Okay. So I'm going to start with a prayer and then we'll get into the actual healing. Okay. I believe that God is a healer. And I believe that God is a healer. I don't just believe that God is a healer. In fact, I know that God is a healer and nobody can convince me otherwise. And the reason I know God is a healer because I've been blessed to demonstrate God as a healer a lot of times. Okay. I'm not saying that I'm the magic because I most certainly am not. But I am thankful that hidden within each of us, stored, planted within each of us, is the ability to tap into that healing power. And so we're going to do some of that today. And I'm going to start with a prayer because, quite frankly, from my perspective, if God doesn't show up, the healing doesn't happen. So I want to give credit where credit is due. Even the Master Yeshua, Jesus said, it is not I, but the Father within me that doeth the work. Right? And so, God, I thank you and know you to be a healer. And through the union that we share, through the power of your pure love, I call forth your healing on the behalf of, if you'd like to tap into this healing silently or out loud, state your name right now. If you have a loved one who's dealing with this, silently or out loud, state their name right now for the purpose of neutralizing the root cause of the energy that causes cancer, from the entire energy field of every strand of DNA and every cell of the body of each person who's choosing to tap into this healing. The root cause of the energy that deals with and aligns with cancer, from the root cause, and transmuting it into and replacing it with restoration and return to the original divine blueprint, the divine cause, plan, and purpose according to which we were designed by the infinite mind, in the infinite mind of God, to where each and every cell of our body are supporting the greater good of our body as a whole, and where we as a society, with each individual being just a cell in a greater body, turns from its own selfish ambition and foolishness that leads to temporary satisfaction on the level of the ego, and transmutes it into profoundly supporting that which is in complete divine alignment with the pure love and divine light of God, and the manifestations thereof that support life and that more abundantly. And I bear witness to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you. Thank you for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. Okay. All right. So let's look at some things here. I want to take a moment now and I want to address that thing about the self betrayal. I want to invite the light of God's love into the place within each and every one of us where we have felt a need to betray ourselves, perhaps an attempt to make someone else happy, perhaps an attempt to meet our own perceived needs, but in a misguided way, perhaps as a coping mechanism that we learned in early childhood uh, to get our needs fulfilled, but that are no longer appropriate. Perhaps to keep someone else from retaliating against us. I want to address that. Okay. Let's take a moment now and look at strengthening us to develop a deep, profound self-love, to love ourselves so profoundly that we are infinitely committed to welcoming in that which supports our highest and best good, and refusing to give our energy to that which consumes us on the inside, seeks to consume us and destroy us from the inside out. Okay. All right. Okay. I want to take a moment right now and look at the how we were socialized to um, betray ourselves in the early portions of our life, and even as we grew up, because we were rewarded by betraying ourselves, ways that we got other people's approval, way that we had the way that we were able to get attention. I want to transmute that into us being able to truly, deeply, and completely approve, accept, and approve of ourselves. And to draw uh, energy, to draw more energy in. When you run out of energy, literally, you die when you run out of energy, when your body runs out of energy. Okay. But to where we're infused with greater degrees of energy when we hearken to our true selves. I want to strengthen us for that. Strengthen us for that. Strengthen us to be able to identify our true identity and dwell in alignment with that, and to be vigilant in doing so. Okay. And to do so unapologetically, yet compassionately. Compassion towards ourselves and compassion towards others who might be thrown for a loop by our change in behavior and our ability to establish and honor healthy boundaries. I'm going to tell you the nature, I'm going to put you on game. The way that I'm just going to use this more traditional language because it just feels like it fits in this moment. The way that the enemy of our soul beats us is tricking us to accept a false idea of what's actually true. And so it's appropriate for us to be able to establish healthy boundaries. It is not appropriate for us to set up a defense mechanism against that which supports our highest and best good. And that's what cancer does, right? Okay, so let's look at the part of our ego that wants to believe lies. Your soul can't stand to be lied to. But there's a part of your ego, that gets a rise out of some lie. Okay. All right. So let's strengthen us to being true to our soul. Let's strengthen us to be able to hear the still small voice of God whispering to us, to truly hone insight, divine insight, intuition, and to listen to no other voice. Okay. Or return a deaf ear to those voices that would seek to distract us from our truth. All right. Want to strengthen us to be able to seek out and find that which supports our highest and best good. Okay. So often what our ego wants and what our soul wants are two totally different things. Several hours ago, I guess a little over a day ago, I flew over the North Pole or somewhere close to it. and put it in earth context, um, context of the earth realm. What the ego wants and what the soul wants are as far away as the North Pole from the South. Okay, they're polar opposite directions. I use that illustration just to be able to say they are polar opposites. They're 180 degrees away from each other. Okay. All right. And so the way that the world operates, though, is by making that which actually causes us to betray ourselves to be attractive. Okay. And so we want to actually switch, turn off that mechanism and turn on the switch that has us feeling attracted to, drawn to that which is actually good for us. Not good for our ego, but good for us. Actually, good for us. Not the part that wants to edge God out, but the part that wants to lean into God. The part of us that wants to lean into love. The part of us that wants to lean into truth. Strengthen that leaning into truth part. Okay. All right. Let's strengthen us all to be able to gravitate towards products that are actually healthy for us rather than those which are not. Where we give our money is where we give our power. And so also in terms of strengthening us to put our money in the direction of that which actually supports our highest and best good, rather than the cancerous energy of that which seeks to take without really giving any back. Take as much as possible while giving as little as possible. Okay. All right. For whatever reason, I see a vision of Lawrence Fishburne in my mind, and a young, her name just escapes me. I just watched a movie that she was in. Suni, help me with her name. Young lady that was Kiki Palmer. I see a vision of Lawrence Fishburne and Kiki Palmer, the movie Aquila and the Bee. And Lawrence Fishburne's character had her spell prestidigitation. Prestidigitation, the root word of prestidigitation is prestige. It's the word that's, the root prestige is frequently perceived as a good thing. It's believed to be a good thing to attend a prestigious university. There was another movie, however, called The Prestige. And there are two movies that came out relatively close to the same time. One was called The Illusionist, and the other one was called The Prestige. And they were both kind of like the same movie. They're both magicians doing their thing, which was really dealing with the truth being one thing, but presenting something that was untrue to people and getting them to buy into it. That is what the essence of prestige actually is. That's what prestige actually is. It is a false perception that is perceived as something fantastic that's not actually anything fantastic at all. Okay. And so we a lot of times buy into things being fantastic, being amazing, being attractive, being something that we want to lean into, that we want to associate ourselves with. But in the end, these are actually things that is just part of an illusion. It's just part of an illusion. Okay. And so I want to strengthen us to be able to open and clarify our spiritual eye to be able to see the truth beyond the illusion. To be able to see beyond that which has a form that appears pleasing rather than an essence that actually is pleasing. Okay. That requires us to be more healthy in our consciousness. Okay. So I want to strengthen us. I want to strengthen us to actually break down the things that have existed and been passed down from one generation to another within our ancestral lineage that have been uh, that have set forth these actual unhealthy patterns in our lives. I want to go back 18 generations, dealing with 762 different ancestral issues related to this matter. Clearing those from the point of cause and root, inviting the light of God's love not only into us, but into each one of those ancestors before us, in each of those areas where those things settled in consciousness. So that not only are we healed, but even our ancestors before us, that the healing takes place in them retroactively. And going forward in future generations, going forward 21 future generations, that the healing has happened within them in advance of even having to take on the issue. Thank you, God. All right. Okay. I'm going to take a moment right now. And I want to address the part of us that rebels against ourselves, part of us that rebels against God, the part of us that's angry towards God. Guess what? There have been times you've been angry with God before. Some of you are consciously aware of it. Some of you don't really allow yourselves to get in touch with it. But a lot of times there are things that happen in our lives that don't go the way we would have wanted them to. Maybe there is a betrayal from somebody else, something we experience as a betrayal from somebody else. Maybe a loved one died. Maybe we had faith that they were going to live and they made their transition. Maybe something didn't work out the way that we want it to work out professionally or any other area of our life. And we got mad at God because of it. I want to encourage us to forgive God, not because God needs the forgiveness, but because you need to do so. Because that unforgiveness can eat away at you. The unforgiveness can eat away at you. So we want to actually transmute that unforgiveness into a commitment to have internal peace and strengthen us, have a profound commitment to internal peace, which actually brings up something else, and that's our perceived need to control things. Okay. Reality is we're not really controlling anything. But sometimes when we feel that we don't have control, we try to control things that are still out of our control, but can give us the illusion of control, right? Like our attempts to try to control other people's behavior. our attempt to control people and punish them for using their free will in a way that is different from how we would choose to use our free will or how we would want them to use their free will. Okay. All right. And so releasing that need to control that which is outside of our control. And when we find ourselves feeling concerned or um, unvul- feeling vulnerable in a way that's really uncomfortable to us, really truly putting our hand in God, really truly putting our hand in God's hand and trusting God that God's got us. See, this is when we align our consciousness, when we align our heart and mind to be vibrating there, as opposed to the ego, opposed to that which would detract life from us. When we choose to align ourselves with that which supports our highest and best good, we start attracting that which supports our highest and best good. We all have faith. It's just a matter of where it is that we're putting it. We can have faith in things not working out, or we can have faith in the fact that we're covered. Okay. All right. So let's strengthen us to be able to direct our faith in a way that supports our highest and best good. Okay. See, we think sometimes that fear and faith are opposites. No, fear is not the opposite of faith. Fear is just a way that we direct our faith. Okay. It's better to direct our faith in God and in things working out. Okay. So let's strengthen us for our ability to trust ourselves to make healthy decisions. Strengthen us for that. Okay. Now that also requires forgiveness too. It requires us to forgive ourselves for the times that we didn't necessarily make the best decisions. I have not always made the best decisions in my life. I think it's safe to say that you have not always made the best decisions in your life. It's part of the human predicament. Guess what? It's okay that you've made some bad decisions along the way. I'm not saying that you should gloat in your bad decisions by any means. What I am, however, saying is it's okay to extend grace to yourself. Okay. As you extend grace to yourself, it's okay to extend grace to others as well. Mm. All right. Here's another reality. Cancer cannot exist in an alkaline environment. Al- Cancer cannot exist in an alkaline environment. It can only exist in an acidic environment. Okay. So whether something is acidic or whether it's alkaline is dealing with the pH of the thing. The pH is typically referred to pH, but what it really stands for is the power of hydrogen. Okay. Okay. Let's put a different twist on that and call it HP. Okay. We'll call it human potential. Which way are you utilizing your human potential? Are you utilizing your human potential and the power that the Holy of Holies is invested within you to destroy your life or to uh, enjoy a rich and bountiful life. And when I say rich and bountiful life, I'm not just talking about money. It certainly can include that. I'm not excluding money. I'm just saying it's not limited to that. Okay. True abundance starts on the inside. Okay. May we all prosper and be in good health, even as our souls doth prosper. Okay. So let's to be able to truly prosper in our soul and to experience life and that more abundantly. And strengthen us to be able to help others experience life and that more abundantly. Because that which we cause other people to experience is what we draw to ourselves in our own life experience. Okay. All right. God, thank you so much for this healing that's gone forth today. Thank you for uh, returning us a bit more to our true self, returning us to the divine blueprint according to which we were divinely designed, uh, where each cell in our body is supporting in its own way, is supporting the greater good of our body as a microcosm of each of us as human beings, supporting the greater good of the body of humanity or the body of creation as a whole. Thank you for this vision. Thank you for this awareness. Thank you for this possibility. Thank you for this reality. And for all the wonderful ways in which your limitless love endeavors to express itself through the beautification of our lives. Thank you so much for these and all other blessings. We affirm it is done. It is done. It is done. Thank you for being here today. Again, if you know somebody who's dealing with the big C, please share this with them, pass it on to them, and share maybe something that you got out of this with them, what it is that you think they might get out of it. And not in a way that you're like imposing it on them or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that. But just from a spirit of love, presenting it as an offering that they, if they choose, may seek to partake of. May we partake of that which is good for us. May we think on those things that are good for us. May we feed upon those things which are good for us. And may we speak on those things which are good for us. And when we speak of others, when we speak, let our speech give life and be an expression of love. God bless you. I love you. May we honor the house that we're in as we endeavor to enter into the sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. And until we meet again, I bid you adieu with peace and love. Catch you next time.